Hi folks, Dave Schmidt here. It's the evening of October 20th as I'm coming to you today. First of all, I want to just say thank you so much to all the absolutely wonderful people who attended the workshop in Sedona, here in my hometown, over the weekend. It was a sold-out event for us. We had close to 130 people that were there. And it was very interesting how the comments from the people that have been coming in and what they've said, that there is such a difference is what is taking place in the environment, not only in the workshops, but in the environment of an expectation. Now, I've done something different, and you can actually go online and you can look at this yourself. I'm creating a Facebook page for each of the workshops that I am now attending. We take lots of pictures and where people can post comments, whether they're attending or whether they're not. I did one for the workshop 3 weeks ago. It's called Kansas City Workshop, Sedona Connection. And then the one here in Sedona, obviously it's Sedona Workshop, Sedona Connection. You can go in there, you can do a search window on those also, and you'll find them. And you're going to find a number of absolutely wonderful comments. In the last 4 workshops that I've done, I've asked all of the people at each one of those, it says, have you really noticed a difference in a shift that's taking place in our environment and our atmosphere and how we're perceiving in our consciousness with this new wave X energy? At every one of them, 70 to 80% of the people are raising their hand and they're saying yes. It really has been a shift that has taken place. Now also, obviously remember, there are things that I can share at the workshops that I just can't share online for security reasons. So we encourage you to basically take a look. Can you make it at the last 3 that I have for this year? November 7th in Minneapolis, and I posted the registration is now open for that one today. And then on November 21st, I'm in Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area. And then on December 5th, we'll be in Seattle. Now, what about the program for this week? Well, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to talk about what is the awakening of politics. I spent 20 years of my life in politics. I had 12 years where I was an elected official, where I was in the state legislature in Washington State. Hence the plaque that you see there on the wall behind me that came from my time as I was a Washington State senator. I had managed campaigns during other periods of time, and even had managed a congressional campaign. More than once I was asked to run for Congress, and I said, well, no thank you, because I knew at that level you're pretty much married to the job. You don't have a life of your own, and I wasn't interested in making that type of a commitment. But I really got to understand and know the political structure. As so many, when we would enter into office, we really think we can come in and we can make a difference. And we like to try to think that the money doesn't have an effect on us. Well, after a period of time, we really begin to realize it does. It controls and it dominates the most important issues, that whether or not they get done or they don't get done. But here's what's different. I've been around politics now for close to 30 years, and I'm seeing something taking place this year. The people collectively are beginning to rise up and say, we're tired. We're tired of money totally running and controlling and dominating politics. We have always thought that we were basically a government of the people, by the people. But in reality, in the United States, we have turned into a government of the corporations and by the corporations. And they are the ones that are using the influence of their money to dominate and control what is in their best interest, not for the people, but at the sake of the people. But here's the bottom line. Regardless of what somebody may think about the political system, being corrupt, being inept, Congress and the president both being puppets, all of those can be accurate and true, but the bottom line is it's up to you and me to make those changes. We're the ones who vote them into office. Now you say, well, maybe I didn't. Well, at some point in time, we have to collectively rise up and say, am I willing to make a shift and change for the good of the collective? I'm seeing signs of that this year, especially in what is happening in the American primary political system. But first, let me make a comment about something that happened yesterday in Canada. I had decided to go and have this as the topic of my event before I totally forgot that I remembered that Canada had their national elections yesterday. They made a shift. They made a huge shift from what I would call a cabal-controlled system with Harper, the old prime minister, to a new system with a liberal majority with Trudeau as their new prime minister. Potential of huge shifts and changes to see what can take place in there. Now, their system's a little bit different because they're run on the parliament system. But in the United States, I've never seen anything like this. I'm a pretty good, astute person in politics because I've been around campaigns, I said, for over 25 years. I know how to run them from the inside, and I know what makes them click, and I know why people vote the way that they do, and the different patterns, and the different things that make them, why certain candidates say things the way that they say them. It's all a part of the game. It's all about impression to be able to sway your vote in a certain way. If you would have asked me 8 months to a year ago that Donald Trump would be the leading Republican candidate, I'd say absolutely no way. Because in the old system, he would not. But here's what's happening. The people are saying we're rejecting the typical political candidates whose lives and campaigns are dominated by money. They make promises on one thing, and when they get into office, it's the money that ends up controlling their decisions. What we're seeing on the Republican side is the people know Donald Trump doesn't need the money. He can't really be bought, and he truly is an outsider in the political system. On the Democrat side, you would have asked me 6 to 8 months ago, Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in. She was the automatic nominee. All she had to do was show up, and yet there's an end in control. Okay, a little bit of tongue twisting there, but I'm going to continue to go on, okay? There are a percentage of the voters that really want to have a female president for the first time in the history of our country. Yet, out of nowhere has come Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is by his own admission, and he is a socialist. And yet, he is the leading candidate amongst the Democrats. Here's what I've learned. Well, let me step back and say, when I was in office, I was a Republican. Now, I've gone through a complete, total life shift. In fact, in my last 4 years in our Washington State Senate, when I entered that term, I was a pretty conservative Republican. And by the time I finished, I was probably the most liberal Republican in the state of Washington in elected office. I made a complete shift in how I viewed the importance of what politics was to be. Today, I'm pretty much apolitical. I now see it from a totally different perspective because I really have come to the point in understanding at the federal level, predominantly at the federal level, the president and Congress are just puppets to the cabal money. If you don't fall in line with the cabal money, well, you're pretty much ineffective, or basically they will get rid of you is what they will do. You won't have the opportunity to survive. Because of that, in some ways, how I can be apolitical, what I'm really looking for in a candidate is someone who's going to step up and stand up to the cabal-controlled money system. And why can that happen this time? Well, the bottom line is the cabal could control the system because we, the collective, were pretty much asleep. We let them do it. We didn't stand up. They can literally come in with their billions and billions of dollars and try to affect a campaign. But if we as the collective say no more, we're not going to submit ourselves to the power of money and actually take our vote somewhere else, we can make that shift and change. All the billions of dollars in the world can't buy my vote. Now, what does that mean when I'm willing to actually step up and be a part of the process? As we, the people, step up and start sending the message to the candidates that we're tired of the money, you're going to start to see the members of Congress will begin to fall into place also with some of the legislation that will come that way. Bottom line is, members of Congress are pretty much reactive. They are not a proactive group. They will react to public persuasion and public movement. Why? They really want to come back. They don't want to get unelected. And if they know and they see that there is a movement amongst the people to stand up against the power of money and to truly become what is called a representative government, they'll start standing up and even bucking the leadership of their own party. They'll do it. I've seen it happen because they're reactive. They will react to whoever has the biggest and strongest voice at the moment. The reason that corporations and all of their lobbyists have the biggest and strongest voice is because we're absent. We're not there. in a collective manner, telling them what we feel and what we want and how we want to see things shift and change. There is an awakening that is going on, and that's what I'm going to talk about on the radio program tomorrow night. The people are beginning to wake up. If there is one thing that this cabal-controlled system that controls the money supply all around the world, if what is their greatest fear, it's the people beginning to wake up. And it's happening. It really, truly is happening. There is a shift and a change that is going on within the mindset and the consciousness of the people. And it's not just happening in the United States. It's beginning to happen all around the world. Let me give another little illustration. The people are beginning to wake up to the fact that for over a year, the United States was in Syria fighting this group called ISIS, and they couldn't get anything done. Then all of a sudden, Russia steps in, and within 3 to 4 weeks, they're cleaning up a mess that the United States couldn't get done for over a year. Even the mainstream media is beginning to recognize that. And they're also down inside beginning to realize it was all about the power and control of money, of feeding this political machine. Let me go back and say the military industrial complex machine that also basically controls the political decisions. The people are waking up. That's a very, very positive thing for us. And also it really lines up with what I talk about in my workshop. It's the power of collective thought that really lays the groundwork to what really gets done. I haven't talked much about politics in my 2 years that I've been here on this program because part of me just wanted to walk away from that life. Yeah, I was a senator, and here's what I share with folks at the workshops. I'm a recovering senator. I'm recovering from a life in politics. And it's kind of like, the alcoholic. He says, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a recovering alcoholic. 10 years since I've been sober, but I was still an alcoholic and still can be one. There's still part of the politics that was within me. I'll always admit that because it was a part of my life for so long. And I understand the system, how it works on the inside. But not only am I recovering, but so are the people. The people are beginning to wake up and to recover from something that we've fallen asleep in and something that has been happening to us and we allowed to happen to us. As we are waking up, our world is beginning to change. All of a sudden, you're seeing little shifts and changes here and there and all kinds of stuff that are taking place to bring about a better world for what we really want to have happen. Some people become very concerned about where our world is going. I'm not. I'm very hopeful. I'm very positive. I absolutely believe we are seeing those shifts and changes. So thank you very much for joining me here on this week's video. I'd love to have you on the radio program tomorrow night. You can come, you can always listen live. If not, listen to the program archive. That's what about 70 to 80% of the people do because they don't always have the opportunity to listen live to the program. Thank you very much for joining me this week. I'll be back again next week. Next week, I'm going to have a special guest. If you notice, I don't have guests on my videos or even on my radio programs very often, but I am going to have a special guest next week. So thanks a lot, folks. Love all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, but join me tomorrow night. Okay, thanks a lot. All right, bye-bye.